Hello. You all probably cannot hear this music. Oh well. Right, so I decided I would continue reading the Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide. Boom. Yeah, I've of course used the book loads, but I've never actually read it cover to cover. Let me adjust this microphone real quick. Adjust the microphone. Yes. Okay. Hopefully you can actually read what's on the screen. Hopefully it's legible. And also, hopefully, the internet is doing all right. Where I am, the internet is not intensely good. I've got to mess with my Ember app. You can't see that. It's one of those Ember electric mugs, like a coffee mug. It's got a fucking app and everything to it. It keeps your coffee hot. Unless the heating element where the battery goes away. And then you pretty much have to sit it on the coaster the whole time. Anyway, regardless, even when it's like kind of shitty, like when the battery's shitty, it's still an amazing mug. It was gifted me by one of my buddies, Ryan, and his Vife, Judith, and I love it. Motherfucking cornbread, baby. The breakfast, lunch of champions. That's right. Okay, so the last time I did this, which was like a month ago or so, I think, I believe I got to page 20. Pretty much because I cannot resist commenting about the rules. Oh shit, I have a bookmark. What? Let's see, it'll actually tell me where I ended. Pretty sure it's 20. Yeah, I remember it. It even says podcast on it. So I think I might just use the digital version. Although I have noticed that the printed version has extra art in it that the digital version does not. That just may be on a page or two. So I have the original book, but we're going to use the digital one. I'm not sure how great this would work in a game setting, because while you can like literally flip, can literally flip these pages, or you should be able to. Yeah, it makes like a sound and everything. When you're live streaming, at least that's just computer power, which kind of blows. But you can't like flip through it like a reference book, which is essentially what this book. I mean, that's how it's used. That's how I use it anyway. I want to say I ended on languages and dialects because that's the part that I really enjoyed. I'm gonna reread that. Let's see if I can figure out how to zoom in. How does one zoom? There's this thing. Let's zoom out. I don't want to zoom out. I want to zoom in. Maybe I won't use this. Zoom out. Ah, there we go. All right. Come on, any flimp. Any flimp. All right. Languages and dialects. When fleshing out your world, you can create new languages and dialects to reflect its unique geography and history. You can replace the default languages presented in the player's handbook with new ones, or split languages up into several different dialects. Has anyone done that except for me? In some worlds, regional differences might be much more important than racial ones. Indeed, perhaps all the dwarves, elves, and humans who live in one kingdom speak a common language, which is completely different from that spoken in the neighboring kingdom. This might make communication and diplomacy between two kingdoms significantly more difficult. I think that's debatable. But anyway. Widely used languages might have ancient versions, or there might be completely different ancient tongues that adventurers find written in tombs and ruins. Such languages can add an element of mystery to inscriptions and tomes that characters encounter. The old tongue. There's always the old tongue. You might invent additional secret languages besides Druidic and Thieves' Cant that allow members of certain organizations or political affiliations to communicate. You could even decide that each alignment has its own language. Interesting. Which might be more of an argot, an argot, used primarily to discuss philosophical concepts. That's interesting. In a region where one race has subjugated another, the language of the conquerors can become a mark of social status. Similarly, reading and writing might be restricted by law to the upper classes of a society. Yeah, that's pretty forward thinking, especially if you're, truly world building. Of course, the issue with D&D, I was actually just talking to my buddy Mark last night on the late night rant about this kind of thing. The issue with D&D seems to be that it really is kind of the hallmark of the system is about combat. So when you get into this flair, essentially, kind of all it is flair. And you can get really deeply into languages and such. Political affiliations, the factions, for example, in Sigil, or Sigil as the reprobates call it. But it kind of has nothing to do with the game system. The game system can address those things, but really all of your stats and leveling up and all that crap, it's much more towards combat and maintaining combat. So, this is interesting stuff. I'm not surprised that people don't mess with it too much, because the system doesn't reward you for doing it, basically. Yeah, you can get XP and you can house rule it, but I'm talking about the system as written. Okay, let me make sure Factions and organizations. Temples, guilds, orders, secret societies, and colleges are important forces in the social order of any civilization. Their influence might stretch across multiple towns and cities, with or without a similarly wide-ranging political authority. Organizations can play an important role in the lives of player characters, becoming their patrons, allies, or enemies, just like individual non-player characters, NPCs. When characters join these organizations, they become part of something larger than themselves, which can give their adventures a context in the wider world. Whatever, man. We're the heroes, okay? We change the world, not organizations. Real quick, I'm going to look up a word that it used. I've heard the word argot, but truth, I don't know what it means. So, a specialized vocabulary or set of idioms used by a particular group. So, like an argot is a vernacular, right? I'm sure that there's a difference there, but it's kind of the same. All right. Oh no, what have I done? I used the mouse wheel. It all went to shit. Oh, the mouse wheel. The mouse wheel. The mouse wheel. Adventurers and organizations. I already did that. At the start of a campaign, backgrounds are a great way to connect adventurers to your world. As the game progresses, though, background ties often become less important. No joke, you just stop paying attention to them. Factions and organizations aimed at player characters are a way to keep higher level adventurers connected to your world, providing ties to key NPCs and a clear agenda beyond individual gain. In the same way, villainous organizations create an ongoing sense of menace above and beyond the threat of solitary foes. Having different characters tied to different factions can create interesting situations at the gaming table. Yeah, as long as those factions have similar goals and don't work in opposition to one another all the time. Adventurers. Come on, don't slut me now. Where's the little hand thing? Oh, it may have. Did it crash? Right. So, awesome flip book, or any flip, but I think it just crashed. Motherfucker. The D&D Dungeon Master Manual. What? It's not called the manual. It's called the guide, motherfucker. All right. Come on, asshole. Fucking work. Yeah, so I am incredibly patient. I needed to go over there. No. Stop slutting me. Do it. Maybe I can push this over this way. No, you don't need to see my punk ass. My little name. Do I care that much? Do I really care? Yeah, I do. All right. Representing different factions. Man, all right, Flipbook, you're fucking with me. I keep on calling it Flipbook. It's called Any Flip. It's good, but it's starting to annoy me. Adventurers representing different factions might have competing interests or priorities while they pursue the same goals. Thanks, DMG. And adventure organizations are also a great source of special rewards beyond experience points and treasure. Increased standing in an organization has value in and of itself, okay? And might also come with concrete benefits, such as access to an organization's information, equipment, magic, and other resources. You know, there's a pitfall here. Again, if it's not giving them levels in XP, then I know people are gonna people will argue with me about this. They'll be like, no, but wait, no, the people care, people care. Yeah, really, that people care. Okay, so in your D&D game, no one's concerned about gaining levels. Oh, it's too broad a stroke. Listen, I'm just right. Just go with me here. I know what I'm talking about. Creating factions. Factions and organizations that you create for your campaign should grow out of the stories that are important to the world. No, they shouldn't. Create organizations that your players will want to interact with, whether as allies, members, or enemies. Okay. As a starting point, decide what role you want an organization to play in the world. What is it all about? What are its goals? Who founded it and why? What do its members do? Answering these questions should... I want to come back to that. Let's make sure. Yep. Give you a good sense of the organization's personality. From there, think about typical members. How might people describe them? What are the typical members' classes and alignments? What personality traits do they tend to share? See, I'm not going to comment on this. Choosing a symbol and a motto for the organization is a way of summing up the work you've done so far. A faction that uses a stag as a symbol probably has a very different personality from one that uses a winged viper. For a motto, choose not just a message, but also a tone and style of speech that fits the organization as you've defined it. Consider the motto of the Harpers. Down with tyranny, fairness and equality for all, okay? The Harpers have a straightforward message of freedom and prosperity. Contrast that with the motto of a group of politically allied cities in the north calling themselves the Lord's Alliance. Threats to home must be terminated without prejudice. Superiority is our security. It's a little 1984. These are sophisticated people, clearly, involved in a delicate political alliance, with more emphasis on stability than on fairness and equality. But they're sophisticated, right? Finally, think about the ways that player characters, just call them PCs, DMG, come on, that PCs might come into contact with the organization. Who are the important members, not just the leaders, but the agents in the field that the adventurers might encounter? Where are they active, and where do they have headquarters or strongholds? If adventurers do join, what kind of missions might they be sent on? What rewards can they gain? It's a kind of D&D that I just don't see often. But I'm sure is really fun. Yeah, okay, we'll keep on going. Actually, I want to come back here and look at the Harpers. Swing. Here's a sample faction for you. The Harpers is a scattered network of spellcasters and spies who advocate equality and covertly oppose the abuse of power, magical or otherwise. The organization has risen, been shattered, and risen again several times. Its longevity and resilience are largely due to its decentralized, grassroots, secretive nature and the autonomy of its various members. The Harpers have small cells and lone operatives throughout the Forgotten Realms, although they interact and share information with one another from time to time as needs warrant. The Harpers' ideology is noble, and its members pride themselves on their ingenuity and incorruptibility. Harpers don't seek power or glory, only fair and equal treatment for all. Sounds like adventurers to me. Motto: down with tyranny, fairness and equality for all, yeah. Beliefs: the Harpers' beliefs can be summarized as follows. 1 can never have too much information or arcane knowledge. Too much power leads to corruption. Doesn't that contradict? No, okay, well, knowledge is power. And the abuse of magic in particular must be closely monitored, or we're going to get you. No one should be powerless. Okay, goals. Gather information throughout Faerun. Is it Faerun or is it Faerun? I guess that's not an ash, so it's Faerun. Discern the political dynamics within each region, and promote fairness and equality by covert means. Act openly as a last resort. Thwart tyrants and any leader, government, or group that grows too powerful. Aid the weak, the poor, and the oppressed. They sound like terrorists. Typical quests. Typical Harper quests include securing an artifact that would upset the balance of power in a region, gathering information on a powerful individual or organization, and determining the true intentions of an ambitious political figure or evil spellcaster. You know, half of that sounds all right, and I'm not trying to, screw over the Harpers here, but I mean, it does sound really interesting. It sounds flawed as fuck. All right. Did it crash again? If it did, fuck it. All right. Going back over here. Renown. Renown. So, renown is an optional rule you can use to track an adventurer's standing within a particular faction or organization. Ooh, this could actually be interesting. So here's a new stat. Renown is a numerical value that starts at 0, that increases as the character earns favor and reputation within a particular organization. You can tie benefits to a character's renown, including ranks and titles within the organization and access to resources. Okay. A player tracks renown separately for each organization their character is a member of, ending with a preposition. For example, an adventurer might have 5 renown within one faction and 20 renown within another, based on the character's interaction with each organization over the course of the campaign. I think maybe someone else wrote this. Gaining renown. A character earns renown by completing missions or quests that serve an organization's interests or involve the organization directly. You award renown at your discretion as characters complete these missions or quests, typically at the same time you award XP. Okay. Let's see. Make sure you got that. Yeah. Advancing an organization's interests increases a character's renown within the organization by 1. Completing a mission, blah, 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 does 2. For example, here's a bunch of examples. Fine, I'll read it. For example, characters with connections to the Noble Order of the Gauntlet. Complete it's a silly name. Complete a mission in which they free a town from the tyranny of a blue dragon. Because the Order likes to punish evildoers. You might increase each character's renown within the Order by 1. Conversely, if killing the dragon was a mission given to the adventurers by a senior member of the Order, completing the task might instead increase each character's renown by 2, showing the adventurers as effective allies. Meanwhile, the party's rogue might have looted a box of rare poisons from the dragon's hoard and sold it to a fence who is secretly a Gentarum agent. You might increase the rogue's renown within the Gentarum by 2, since this action directly increased the group's power and wealth, even though the task was not assigned by an agent of the Gentarum. Okay. Benefits of renown. The benefits of increasing renown with an organization can include rank and authority, friendly attitudes from members of the organization, and other perks. Give me stats, please. Rank. Did it not just tell me about this? Characters can earn promotions as their renown increases. You can establish certain thresholds of renown that serve as prerequisites, though not necessarily the only prerequisites, for advancing in rank as shown in the examples of faction ranks table. For example, a character might join the Lords' Alliance after earning 1 renown within that organization, gaining the title of Cloak. Shouldn't it be a capital C? As the character's renown within the organization increases, they might be eligible for further increases in rank. You can add rank prerequisites. For example, a character affiliated with the Lords' Alliance. Again, is it Lords' or Lords when the apostrophe is after the S? For the, you get what I'm saying. Might have to be at least 5th level before becoming a Stingblade. At least 10th level to be a War Duke. And at least 15th level to be a Lion Crown. Kind of silly. You can set these thresholds of renown to any numbers that work for your game, creating appropriate ranks and titles, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so you get a title. So examples of faction ranks. If your renown is 50, you're like a High Harper, a Righteous Hand. I thought it said Righteous Wind. Master of the Wild. A Lion Crown or a DreadLore. See, DreadLore. What does that sound like? DreadLore. Yay, Gentarum. So you're a Fang, you're a Wolf, you're a Viper, you're an R-Dragon. You're a DreadLore. Huh. Spring Warden, Summer Strider, Autumn Reaver, Winter Stalker, Master of the Wild. Cheval, I think that means horse. Or cheval? Cheval, I think it means horse in French. Martian, I don't know what Martian is. Whitehawk, Vindicator, Righteous Hand. Gave your mama the Righteous Hand. Or your daddy. Harp, Shadow, Bright Candle, Wise Owl. That's a little redundant. High Harper. Man, my Harper's so high. I mean, whatever. I can destroy this, but there's no reason to. Attitudes of organizational members. Or organization members. See, again, this doesn't really... it gives you a title, which is cool, but what does it have to do with your character? As in, again, I'm tying it to game mechanics. As in, how does it make your character more effective? Because anybody can be like, no, my rogue has skin that's chameleon skin. You still roll stealth the same as everybody else, right? But no, it's chameleon skin, right? It's all flair, it's all fluff. I'm a Vindicator. Great. Does it give you an intimidate bonus? Do people know what that is? Are you just house ruling it? Like, this is an optional rule. I think it should tie to the actual mechanics of the game somehow. Does it give you advantage? You know, something. We shall see. Dear God, if it's like organizational members are they like you more, then thanks. As a character's renown within an organization grows, members of that organization are increasingly likely to have heard of your character. You can set thresholds at which the default attitude of an organization's members toward the character become indifferent or friendly. Okay? For example, members of the Emerald Enclave, a faction dedicated to preserving the motherfucker. Any flip, you piece of shit. I'm just going to do that. I can't really go back and forth. All right, fuck it. Dedicated preserving the natural order might be less friendly towards characters who have not cultivated at least 3 renown within that organization, becoming friendly by default only when a character has gained 10 renown within the Emerald Enclave. These thresholds apply only to the default attitude of most members of an organization, and such attitudes are not automatic. NPC faction members might dislike an adventure despite that character's renown, or perhaps because of it. Okay, so it's ad hoc. Perks. Earning a rank within an organization comes with certain benefits. Oh my god, just fucking tell me what they are, as defined by you. Oh. A character of low rank might gain access to a reliable contact in adventure leaves, a safe house, or a trader willing to offer a discount on adventuring gear. A middle ranked character might gain a follower. See, I'm going to go into this because I'm thinking, like, it immediately goes into magic in your world. Piety, which might be interesting because it's another optional rule. Losing renown, I think it's pretty obvious. When you fuck up, then you lose renown. It has kind of like a it's a distraction from XP when it comes down to it. You know, and in the world, if renown really matters, like you can't enter the city unless you have 35 renown or some shit. Yeah, it does matter, and you have to go do stuff and get quests. It kind of sounds like an MMORPG, is that what they're called? Anyway, I'd tie it to stats, or I'd make them skills. So something like you get a certain amount of renown, and that gives you it either translate directly to the skill, like like they do with like herbalism pouches and med kits and all that bullshit, whatever the equipment is called. Essentially, if you have it, you can roll for it, and it's attached to one of your attributes. And if you're proficient with it, then you get proficiency bonus. So it basically acts like a skill, right? That you have proficiency in. So gaining equipment in 5th edition is essentially a way to gain skills. So renown could be that way with the different factions. So the Lord's Alliance, boom, that renown essentially is a skill. And then once you get to a certain point, you get your proficiency. And maybe when you get past that, you gain like a +1 to it. So if you're like 50, maybe you have like a +10 or something to that skill, plus your proficiency, plus your charisma or whatever you're doing with it. So you could have just massive bonus. But the thing is, that makes sense because you got a renown of 50, right? Especially if like 50 is the cap, and maybe you can do things like resource management, like, okay, you can cash in your renown for favors that maybe people wouldn't do. Or you can be like, I want a follower, first level fighter or second level fighter or something to follow me around. Boom, 5 renown down. And then you can gain like an army that way. And so you can have an actual army of your own with your keep. You got 200 soldiers, which, that's like 1,000 worth of renown that you've accumulated over the course of a campaign. And so then you're sitting out there like, oh, I've got to get more renown. And, like you can actually get pretty granular, and it's using the mechanics. See? Way better. That's what they should do. If you guys have any ideas, lay it on me. Oh, my mouth is getting tired. Losing renown. Disagreements with members of an organization aren't enough to cause a loss of renown within that organization. What if you like slap the president? However, okay, maybe that's one. Serious offenses committed against the organization or its members can result in a loss of renown and rank within the organization. To the extent of the loss depends on the infraction and is left to your discretion. A character's renown within an organization can never drop below 0. Whatever. You're blackballed, you get a -10, you gotta come back from it. Okay, whatever. Piety. Piety. With a few alterations, the renown system can also serve as a measure of a character's link to the gods. It's a great option for campaigns where the gods take active roles in the world. Interesting here, you could tie this with alignment for everybody. That'd be interesting. My buddy Nigel, aka Punksicle, has done something like this with the DreadLore game. He's done an alternate setting for Star Wars, and basically when you do bad shit or use the Force in the wrong way or whatever, you gain dark side points, and those eventually tie into sanity rolls, which is kind of cool. Anyway, so using this approach, you track renown based on specific divine figures in your campaign. Each character has the option to select a patron deity or pantheon with goals, doctrine, and taboos that you've created. Any renown they earn is called piety. A character gains piety for honoring their gods, fulfilling their commands, respecting their taboos. A character loses it for the opposite. The gods bestow favors on those who prove their devotion. With each rank of piety gained, a character can pray for divine favor once per day. Okay, that's interesting. This favor usually comes in the form of a cleric spell like Bless. See, that's fucking cool, because it ties into the game system. The favor often comes with a sign of the divine benefactor. For example, a character dedicated to Thor might receive a spell accompanied by the boom of thunder. A high level of piety can also lead to a character gaining a more persistent benefit in the form of a blessing or charm. See Chapter 7 Treasure for such supernatural gifts. Interesting. So that should be the whole fucking thing. Just I think that should be the whole thing. As in, they should have written this to tie into something not just divine. Like, that should be like the rule, Like, if you want to use this optional rule, then maybe your renown, you can call it piety, but it's just renown with the gods. And so the characters are tracking that themselves. Boom, they can pray. What is this? With each rank, they can pray for favor once per day. Interesting. So how do you lose the rank? With each rank of piety gained, a character can pray for divine favor once per day. So they basically get blessed. So they pray, they get blessed once per day. And then if they got a shit ton of piety, they can do it multiple times a day. That's interesting. I wonder how that affects the balance of clerics and in whatever other class I'm thinking of. Or bards. Well, the bards don't have bless, but they have... actually, maybe the spell bless does something different than what I'm thinking it does. Let me look that up really quick. Give my mouth a rest. I'm almost out of gummy bears. It's some bullshit. Oh, motherfucker. Alright, bless. Swing. So it's a first level enchantment spell. Enchantment? Enchantment? Really? Should just be divine. Whatever. You bless up to 3 creatures of your choice within range. Whenever a target makes an attack roll or saving throw before the spell ends, which is up to a minute, The target can roll a d4 and add the number rolled to the attack or saving throw. Interesting. So you can, if you get piety, you kind of get bless. So the party gets a d4 to their attack and saving throw. Because, it's all about combat, right? I mean, like, just to drive my point home, saving throw you're making when you're getting attacked somehow. Like, that could be a social attack, like a mental stat. But then it directly goes to attack rolls because D&D is about combat. Interesting. I'm not entirely certain how this plays out. Like, do you lose your piety? It goes into magic in your world. Do you lose the piety, or you can gain, kind of like Clash of the Titans, the old one? You can just gain like cool items. And it's interesting that, piety has to do with any character that's religious. And then you could make it, I just think renown, piety, they're kind of two different things. Interesting. So, let's say you're within a guild and kind of like in Warhammer, like 40k. I'm going to butcher, there's a pun here. I'm going to butcher the lore because I don't know the lore incredibly well. But I think when you're like a space marine, when you get to a certain renown, you can use the artifact that's killed demons and shit. Like the super hammer or whatever it's called, like the psyker hammer or whatever. I don't know. That could be really cool with like the factions. So instead of just, I want to buy, a Holy Avenger or a really cool weapon, it's like you have to have a certain amount of renown to be able to get that. And maybe there's only 5 or 10 or something. It would be an interesting way to deal with magic items and take it away from, just a religious aspect, just the religious characters. But that could play into, the spiritual characters like the druids and stuff. It also play into, the fighters and shit. Also, renown could go into, or piety, whichever one. Although they seem like two different mechanics. Like druids, if you go back to like 2nd edition, there could only be so many druids of like the higher level druids. Like in the world, there was like 13 or something. And that'd be interesting, kind of like Afro Samurai. Like there's only one Arc Druid, and you've got to have, 52 renown, but you can't get to 52 until that person either loses it or dies or whatever. That could be pretty interesting. Okay. Let's see. See, I can't get rid of this little... What just happened? I can't get rid of this little legend, which is annoying. Can I get rid of it? Full screen. That might work. Let me see. No. Give me a second. I'm trying to mess with this thing. Maybe if I zoom in. And I see I still have the same problem. I pretty much have to pull this thing back to make it work. That, sir, is annoying. Okay, magic in your world. In most day-and-day worlds, magic is natural, but still wondrous and sometimes frightening. People everywhere know about the magic, and most people see evidence of it at some point in their lives. It permeates the cosmos and moves through the ancient possessions of legendary heroes. The mysterious ruins of fallen empires, those touched by the gods, creatures born with supernatural power, and individuals who study the secrets of the multiverse. Histories and fireside tales are filled with the exploits of those who wield it. What normal folk know of magic depends on where they live and whether they know characters who practice magic. Citizens of an isolated hamlet might not have seen the true magic used for generations and speak in whispers of the strange powers of the old hermit living in the nearby woods who can cast second level spells. In the city of Waterdeep, in the Forgotten Realms setting, the Watchful Order of Magists and Protectors is a guild of wizards, but they're magists. These arcanists wish to make wizardry more accessible so the Order's members can profit from selling their services. Some D&D settings have more magic in them than others. On Athos, the harsh world of the Dark Sun setting, arcane magic is a hated practice that can drain life from the world. Much of Athos magic lies in the hands of evildoers. Conversely, in the world of Eberron, magic is as commonplace as any other commodity. Mercantile houses sell magic items and services. To whom, DMG? To anyone who can afford them. People purchase tickets to ride airships and trains propelled by elemental magic. Consider these questions when fitting magic into your world. Is some magic common? Is some socially unacceptable? Which magic is rare? How unusual are members of each spellcasting class? How common are those who can cast high-level spells? How rare are magic items, magical locations, and creatures that have a supernatural powers? At what power level do these things go from everyday to exotic? How do authorities regulate and use magic? Good fucking question. How do normal folks use magic and protect themselves from it? The answers to some questions suggest the answers to others. For example, if spellcasters of low-level spells are common, as in Eberron, then authorities and common folk are more likely to have access to and use the results of such spells. Buying commonplace magic isn't only possible, but also less expensive. People are more likely to keep well-known magic in hand and to protect against it, especially in risky situations. This is an interesting thing, especially since one of the ideas of 5th Ed is there's a range when it comes to magic items, as in how much they cost. So instead of laying a cost on them, they'll just be like, oh yeah, that's rare. That's an uncommon magic item. That's a very rare one, And there's a massive range, something like 500 gold or like 5,000 gold sometimes, or 1,000 gold or whatever. I see where that's coming from. At the same time, it starts to break down to higher levels when players have access to just shit tons of gold. So everyone at a high level is just rich, which is kind of silly. Like, just because you're powerful doesn't mean you're rich. But in D&D, if you're powerful, that means you pretty much have to have access to very powerful magic items, which are expensive. But do you just go buy those? And, like, how do you sell Excalibur, right? Like, what's it actually worth? Like, millions of gold, right? And then, you see where I'm going with this? Like, that's the problem with laying value to these things, which they were trying to get away from. But then when you start asking these questions, you really have to say, well, if magic is every day, a lot of the work is on you in 5th edition. Anyway. Okay. I'm not saying I've fixed this. But we'll I'm going to fucking go into it just cuz I have to. So, in DreadLore, for example, there is a currency. It's more like denominations. So you've got coins, and they're called a coin, and then you cut them up into bits. And so pretty much you're always using bits to pay for things. The only time that you really need to actually write down how many bits or how many coin or whatever, gem, stone, and talents is what they are. Beyond that, the only time you really have to write those down is when it actually matters. So, for example, if you have 5 bits, if your game, like normally, the arbiter, the game master, is not going to say, oh, you're buying an ale? Well, that's 3 bits or 2 bits. Instead, it's, do you have bits? Yes, you do. Okay, you bid those. That trait's gone. You've used your bit. You've used your bits for that scene, and you don't have them now. But when all your traits are covered, you have those back, because it's this idea that like your character has a bag of bits. Oh, you have 3 gem, which is quite a bit of wealth in DreadLore. Okay, well, you can bid those down, and then the arbiter can say, okay, well, you want to buy that airship? All right, well, you've got to burn that bid. It's gone. And that's the currency. That's how it works. So it's far less granular. And I think that makes a little bit more sense. I think it makes more sense when it comes to buying magic items. For example, you can tie this in with a renown system. And be like, okay, well, I'm going to cash in 25 renown to essentially buy this magic item that's rare. I feel like that they could have drilled down a little further and had a system that was loose enough to work. And it kind of gave you the tools to be like, well, this is how it works. Because you can always be like, it's up to you. You do whatever you need to do. Like, that's always the catchphrase, right? All right. Restrictions on magic. Some civilized areas might restrict or prohibit the use of magic. Spellcasting might be forbidden without a license or official permission. In such a place, magic items and continual magical effects are rare, with protections against magic being the exception. Okay. Oh, I fucked up. Sorry. Some localities might prohibit specific spells. It could be a crime to cast any spells used to steal or swindle, Po Papillion, such as those that bestow invisibility or produce illusions. Enchantments that charm or dominate others are readily outlawed, since they rob their subjects of free will. Destructive spells are likewise prohibited for obvious reasons. A local ruler could have a phobia about a spell effect or spell, such as shape-shifting effects, if they were afraid of being impersonated, and enact a law restricting that type of magic. That's interesting. Schools of magic. The rules of the game refer to the schools of magic. Abjuration, illusion, necromancy, and so on. But it's up to you to determine what those schools signify in your world. Okay, I think I know where this is going. Similarly, a few class options suggest the existence of magic-using organizations in the world, bardic colleges, and druidic circles, which are up to you to flesh out. Thanks, D&D. You could decide that no formal structures like these exist in your world, to the chagrin of the players that chose those classes. Wizards and bards and druids might be so rare that a player character learns from a single mentor and never meets another character of the same class. Right. So you're never gonna have a foil to the wizard. In which case, wizards would learn their school specialization without any formal training. However, if magic is more common, academies can be the embodiments of the schools of magic. These institutions have their own hierarchies, traditions, regulations, and procedures. For example, Materos, the necromancer, could be a brother of the necromantic cabal of Tharzad. As a sign of his high standing within its hierarchy, he is allowed to wear the red and green robes of a master. They conflict. Of course, when he wears these robes, his occupation is easily identified by those who know of the cabal. This recognition could be a boon or a nuisance, since the cabal of Tharzad has a fearsome reputation. If you go this route, you can treat schools of magic, bardic colleges, and druidic circles as organizations using the guidelines for organizations presented earlier in this chapter. A player character necromancer, might cultivate renown within the cabal of Tharzad, while a bard seeks increasing renown within the college of That is Gaelic. Mac Frimith. Yeah? Mac Frimith. Teleportation circles. The presence of permanent teleportation circles in major cities helps cement their important place in the economy of a fantasy world. This just sounds like they played WoW, and they were like, this is how it works. Spells such as plane shift, teleport, and teleportation circle connect with these circles, which are found in temples, academies, the headquarters of arcane organizations, and places they should fucking be. As you design a fantasy world, think about all this bullshit. Okay, wait, they said something about blood. What do adventurers do if they arrive in a teleportation circle and find all the familiar wards disabled and guards lying in a pools of blood? I mean, come on. That's cool. Bringing back the dead. When a creature dies, its soul departs its body. Really? Leaves the material plane, travels through the astral plane, and goes to abide on the plane where the adventurer's deity resides. If the creature didn't worship a deity, its soul departs to the plane corresponding to its alignment and gets promptly fucked. Bringing someone back from the dead means retrieving the soul from that plane and returning it to its body. Indeed, enemies can take steps to make it more difficult for a character to be returned from the dead. Keeping the body prevents others from using raise dead or resurrection to restore the slain character to life. Yeah, but then what is you're running a 2-year-long campaign, someone dies, they get the resurrection spell, and you're like, nope, doesn't work. That never fucking goes over well, guys. A soul cannot be returned to life if it doesn't want to be. Sure it can. I know in my D&D game, I just actually said, this is a caveat. However, I think it should be able to. Like, that's a story. I was brought back to, like the Crow style. I was brought back from the dead, but didn't want to be. It's interesting. But, like, you can't die. If you've read the Deathgate cycle, Margaret Wise and Tracy Hickman, I think, wrote it. I believe. And Tracy Hickman also... Was it Dragonlance? Anyway, had a lot to do with D&D. There's a character that this basically happens to, and they can't die, which is an interesting story. I mean, PCs in 5th edition, it's pretty fucking hard to kill them anyway. Like, it can happen, of course. You know, usually, like, you get mauled by a bear or something, or whatever, and then because it's an animal, it just keeps on mauling you. Death saves down and has like 4 attacks. Yeah, you die. But that's also the kind of cheap trick that DMs use or have used, where it's like, oh, you got a high level character. Cool. Well, I get like 35th level wizards, and they all cast magic missile on you. You know? Like, there's ways to kill characters, of course. Anyway, I disagree with this. A soul can't be returned to life if it doesn't wish to be. A soul knows the name, alignment, and patron deity, if any, of the character attempting to revive it, and might refuse to return on that basis. Okay. For example, if the honorable knight Sturm Brightblade is slain and a high priestess of Tachesis, god of evil dragons, grabs his body, Sturm might not wish to be raised from the dead by her. Any attempts she makes to revive him automatically fail. That's fucking stupid. If the evil cleric wants to revive Sturm to interrogate him, she needs to find some way to trick his soul, such as duping a good cleric into raising him, and then capturing him once he is alive again. I'd say give Sturm an advantage, and, just a fucking wisdom save that's out of this world. No pun intended. Like, have his patron deity, or matron deity, whatever, just trance the spell. Like, why does he stay in Celestia? Because it's powerful and it gives him like a +10 to his whatever, and he rolls and bam. Or because that deity or the deva angel that rolls around with him just goes bloop and stops it, right? Like, that's cool. I think it's just like, well, if he doesn't want to, he doesn't have to. Come on. Sure he does. It's dangerous, goddammit. Creating a campaign, goddammit. The world you create is the stage for the adventures you set in. What? The world you create is the stage for the adventures you set in it. Right. You don't have to give more thought to it than that. Really? Because I just read like 25 pages that says I do. You can run adventures in an episodic format with the characters as the only common element, and also weave themes throughout those adventures to build a greater saga of the characters' achievements in the world. Planning an entire campaign might seem like a daunting task, but you don't have to plot out every detail right from the start. You can start with the basics, running a few adventures, and think about larger plot lines you want to explore as the campaign progresses. You're free to add as much or as little detail as you wish. The start of a campaign resembles the start of an adventure. Thanks. You want to jump quickly into the action. Combat. Show the players that adventure awaits. Combat. And grab their attention right away. Combat. Give the players enough information to make them want to come back week after week to see how the story plays out. Okay, I don't have anything to say against that. Start small. When you first start building your campaign, start small. The characters need to know only about the city, town, or village where they start the game, and perhaps the nearby dungeon. You know, that dungeon. You might decide that the barony is at war with a nearby duchy, and that a distant forest is crawling with ettercaps and giant spiders. Don't go there, and you should note these things. But at the start of the game, the local area is enough to get the campaign off the ground. Follow these steps to create the local area. Create a home base. See the settlements section earlier in this chapter for guidance on building this settlement. A small town or village at the edge of the wilderness serves as a fine home base in most D&D campaigns. Use a larger town or city if you want a campaign with urban adventuring. 2. Create a local region. See mapping the campaign earlier in this chapter for guidance. Draw a map at province scale. It better be 1 hex equals 1 mile, goddammit, with the home base near the center. Fill in the area within a day's travel, about 25 to 30 miles of the home base. Pepper it with 2 to 4 dungeons or similar adventure locales. An area that size is likely to have 1 to 3 additional settlements as well as the home base, so give thought to them as well. Number 3. Craft a starting adventure. A single dungeon makes a good first adventure for most campaigns. A home base provides a common starting location for the characters. This starting point might be the village where they grew up or a city that attracted them from points beyond. And here's the little diagram. It's kind of cool. Ominous. Swing. Dear God, I think I've made it like 5 pages. Because I won't shut up. All right. Or perhaps they begin the campaign in the dungeons of an evil baron's castle, where they've been locked up for various reasons, legitimate or otherwise, throwing them into the midst of an adventure. For each of these steps, give the locations only as much detail as they need. You don't need to identify every building in a village or label every street in a large city. If the characters start in the baron's dungeon, you'll need the details of the first adventure site. But you don't have to name all the baron's knights. Sketch out a single map, think about the surrounding area, and consider whom the characters are most likely to interact with early in the campaign. Most important, visualize how this area fits into the theme and story you have in mind for the campaign, and then start working on your first adventure. I kind of disagree with this, but I'm going to keep on going. Set the stage. As you start to develop your campaign, you'll need to fill in the players on the basics. First, for easy distribution, compile essential information into a campaign handout. Such a handout typically includes the following material. Any restrictions? or new options for character creation, such as new or prohibited races. Any information in the backstory of your campaign that the characters would know about. If you have a theme or direction in mind for the campaign, this information could include seeds hinting at the focus. Basic information about the area where the characters are starting, such as the name of the town, important locations and around it, prominent NPCs, blah, 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 blah. 2 pages is a reasonable maximum. Oh my god, okay. Involving the characters. I fucked up. No. Involving the characters. Once you've identified your campaign, what your campaign's about, let the players help tell the story by deciding how their characters are involved. This is their opportunity to tie their character's history and background to the campaign. Ugh. Just ask them how they're involved. This is rather pedantic. No wonder no one read it. Creating a background. Backgrounds are designed to root player characters in the world. Okay, we're skipping that. I mean, they have a robust list of backgrounds, and one of the coolest things about it is the work is fucking done for you, man. And you have like the tables, the random tables you can roll. Like, I get what this is doing. It's like spelling it all out. Hey, ask them these questions. Are you a native born and raised in the area? If so, who's your family? What's your occupation? What? I don't think any of that matters. Especially if you're reading this and you're like, all right, I got to do this. This is my first campaign. I think you're going to be crushed is what's going to happen. So, how do you actually start the first campaign? You get a core idea of what you want the game to be about. What I mean by that is a genre. Like, it's going to be a zombie game or a tavern game. You start in a tavern, you go out, you get into the dungeon. Or a political game or whatever. You look at the monster manual, pick out some cool, challenge 1, 2, and 3s, and then lesser than that. Pick out a few locations. There's the tavern, there's the woods, the swamp, there's the cave, whatever. Or there's a dungeon with a golden crown in it. Whatever the plot is, you're gonna go get the crown. This is first adventure style D&D. Hey guys, what do you want to play? That's the question. I say allow anything in the core books, as in the PHB, DMG, monster manual. Just that. Just stick with that. You get out what they're gonna play. It's level 1. Play fucking level 1, and go you there forth. Like, cool, you're in the tavern, bam. Or bam, you guys are, like, they already know each other. Just have them already know each other. Have them, like, in the shit-tastic adventuring guild that they're in, that they've created themselves, because they're tired of working for people. Whatever. And, they're in the tavern trying to secure a job. Boom. And the job that they're going to secure, they can go to the cave, they can go to the marshland, they can go to the swamp, where, of course, there's the witch. They can go to the actual dungeon. And then you have your monsters there. And one of the things that Mark was saying last night, I really liked what he said. For each session, you have 1 page of paper. And you write your notes. Don't go over that page. Done. Reference the monster manual. Riff on it a little bit. If you think the monster should have, instead of a +5 to attack, a +7, give it to them. Double their fucking hit points if it makes sense. Whatever. That's how you run it. And it's all about the story that's cooperatively told between the players and you. And you're going to have fun. If you build out this massive fucking game your first time, one, the players are not going to, they're either not going to know what to do with it, They're going to ask questions that's beyond what you've written, the pages and pages you've written. By the third or fourth session, you've forgotten shit, or they have. Or they're like, cool town, bruh, and they leave. And you're like, but the adventure's in the town. Just saying. Like, I appreciate what the DMG is doing here, but it is rather pedantic. And what I mean by that is, it's asking all these questions, but it's a little obtuse. Like, of course, some players might have trouble coming up with ideas. Not everyone is equally inventive. You can help spur their creativity with a few questions about their characters. And it's giving you good questions here, but I don't know if it really needs to be explicit, if this needs to be explicitly said. I wonder if they're just trying to fill out, I said this in the previous episode, I wonder if they're just trying to fill out a word count. Because they'll go so far in this, and then they'll just stop, and you're left there like, so what about Renown? Because that was really cool. And then, dicking around with maps and shit, and 1 hex is 1 mile. Like, I guess that makes sense. And that's a bullet point. It doesn't need like 3 pages. Okay. Whew. Campaign events. Significant events in the history of a fantasy world tend towards immense upheavals. Wars that pit the forces of good against evil in an epic confrontation, natural disasters that lay waste to entire civilizations, invasions of vast armies or extraplanar hordes, assassinations of world leaders. These world-shaking events title the chapters of history. In a D&D game, such events provide the sparks that can ignite and sustain a campaign. The most common pitfall of serious stories without a set beginning, middle, and end is inertia. Okay, let's see where this goes. Like many television shows and comic book series, a D&D campaign runs the risk of retreading the same ground long after the enjoyment's gone. Just as actors or writers drift away from those other mediums, so can players, the actors and writers of a D&D game. Fuck you. Players don't write shit. Games stagnate when the story meanders too long without a change in tone, when the same villains and similar adventures grow tiresome and predictable, and when the world doesn't change around the characters in response to their actions. Yeah. Yeah, okay. World-shaking events force conflict. They set new events and power groups in motion. Their outcomes change the world by altering the tone of the setting in a meaningful way. Okay, so this is called a plot arc. They chronicle the story of your world in big, bold print. Change. Especially change that occurs as a result of the character's actions keeps the story moving. If change is imperceptible, the actions of the characters lack significance. When the world becomes reliable, it's time to shake things up. Well, most players are doing the grind. They're trying to gain levels or items. And by dint of going through a story, wherever they are changes. Like if you kill the necromancer's dead. Right? If you clear out the dungeon's cleared out. You have like a time jump and then someone has gone back in there. Like I can understand how it's like you go to the dungeon enough times and you're like, okay, so we're kind of finished with this dungeon business. Like this is boring as fuck. But at the same time, you're gaining levels, which is what the game is about. I can see just gaining levels being boring. And so it's saying, hey, have a plot arc where the characters are the main characters, as in the PCs are the main characters, that are experiencing the story, and actually their actions, what they accomplish, what they fail at, affects the actual arc of the story. I think that's what it's trying to say. But it's putting it in such a way that I don't know, maybe I'm just coming at this and it seems obvious, and perhaps it's just not obvious to people. Whatever. World-shaking events can happen at any time in a campaign or story arc. But the biggest incidents naturally fall at the beginning, middle, and end of a story. Yep. That placement reflects the structure of dramatic stories. At the beginning of a story, something happens to shake the protagonist's world and spur them into action. The characters take action to resolve their problems, but other forces oppose them. As they reach a significant milestone toward the goal, a major conflict disrupts the characters' plans, shaking their world. Again, failure seems imminent. At the end of the story, they succeed or fail. As the world is shaken again, by the way, the character has changed it all for good or ill. At the beginning of a D&D campaign, world-shaking events create instant adventure. In the middle, they make thanks for repeating yourself. When not to shake it up. In constructing a narrative, beware of false action. For action or action for its own sake. False action doesn't move a story forward, engage players, or cause them to change. Many action movies suffer from false action in which car chases, gunfights, and explosions abound, but do little more than inconvenience the characters and eventually bore the audience with the repetition and dearth of meaningful stakes. Some D&D campaigns fall into the same trap, stringing world-spanning disasters together one after another, with little impact on the characters or the world. Thus, it's probably not in the DM's best interest to reorder the world every single time there's a lull in the action, lest world-shaking events become ordinary. I don't know if I've seen this before. As a general rule, a campaign can sustain up to 3 large-scale world-shaking events. What? One is, you just fucking told me this, oh my god. Use as many small-scale events that disturb the bounded microcosms of towns as you like. Every significant event shakes someone's world. Blah, blah. Let unexpected interrupt... Oh, my god. I mean, that's like a page. I just don't think it's needed. And I also disagree with it. I think you could fuck up the world, like, all the time. If your players are in a game where, or in a campaign where it is literally world-shaking events, then one, they either better be powerful enough to change it, right? Or in the right spot to change it. They don't have to be powerful. I guess their position could be powerful. Like in Total Recall, anybody could hit the alien button. You don't have to be powerful to do it. You just have to be there. And you're like, thump. And now all our problems are solved. So they either need to be positioned correctly or powerful enough. Otherwise, the story's the story. Is the world radically changing? I guess it's trying to say, don't just make, the world turn on its head to give them something to do. Like, if you're looking for just something to do, I would say you delve into the players' stories themselves. So, what is your cleric actually doing when you're not in the dungeon? And then, who do they know, and what are the conflicts that they're actually dealing with themselves and with other people? Like, you start digging into that, and that player starts exploring those things, and there's your story. World-shaking events. I think those are more MacGuffins than anything. Like, it's a good way to focus everyone because there's something bigger than you. But I don't think it's boring to be like, that's what Star Wars is about. Like, all of them, all of the movies, all of them, they're about a world-shaking event after a world-shaking event. because that's what's happening. You know, it's something that's bigger than you. And the thing that's really interesting is when all hell's breaking loose, but then you have to choose yourself over the greater good or the greater good over yourself. Like, that's an excellent recipe. I'm not sure I know what they're trying to say. Also, as a general rule, a campaign can sustain up to 3 large-scale world-shaking events. Maybe it's defining campaign in a different way. World-shaking events. You can use this section for ideas and inspiration to expand on your world-shaking events. They should be called like WSEs, already occurring or soon to occur within your world. Alternatively, you can roll on the tables below to randomly generate an event to inspire your imagination. The attempt to justify a random result can reveal unforeseen possibilities. Thanks. To get started, select a world shaking. Select a WSE category or roll on the WSE table. WSEs. Roll a d10. Rise of a leader or an era. Fall of a leader or an era. Cataclysmic disaster. Assault or invasion. Rebellion, revolution, overthrow. Extinction or depletion. New organization. Discovery, expansion, invention. Prediction, omen, prophecy. Myth and legend. I don't think that's very helpful. Okay. Leader types. Blah, blah, blah. I'm not reading that. That's boring. It's boring, goddammit. So you're talking about all this bullshit. Rise of a leader. It's just telling you who's the leader. What their fall? How'd they fall? What happened? Thanks. All right. Cataclysmic disasters. Man, it's going through every one of these. D10. Cataclysmic disaster. Earthquake, famine, drought, fire, flood, plague, disease, rain of fire. Ooh, a meteoric impact. That's rather cataclysmic. A storm, hurricane, tornado, tsunami. Volcanic eruption, magic gone awry, or a planar VOP. Divine judgment. Divine judgment. So what happened? Invading forces. This is just obvious shit. We'll look at the art. Look at that art. Sorry, guys. I cannot stomach reading it. It's just fucking awful. Pick a power group in your current campaign and name or invent a group that opposes it. Fomenting revolution. Let the following points help you flesh out the conflict. So it's like story writing. Okay. Name 3 things the rebels want to hope and achieve. The rebels achieve a victory against those they wish to overthrow, even if it's a Pyrrhic victory. Which of the 3 goals do they achieve? How long is this achievement likely to last? Blah, blah, blah. This is rather boring. Discoveries. The discoveries kind of seems interesting because it's something that you don't see too often, like a new technology and how does it change things. That's one of them. Ancient ruin, lost city, or legendary race. That'd be kind of cool. Animal, monster, magical mutation, invention, technology, magic. A new god. All that stuff's interesting. The discoveries is pretty cool. Yeah, it really went through all of these. Jeez. Myth and legends. I mean, I'm skipping it because 1, it's just, and it's kind of frustrating me, but 2, it's so obvious. And they've spent, like, they went through every single one. You just need the table. Roll on the table and come up with it. Like, I guess the DMG here is just, it's really trying to lead the new DM by the nose. And I wonder, has anyone read this and actually been helped out by it? There's a few jewels in here, but like of the 33 pages I've gone through, 10 of them have been useful. I need a Kleenex. Okay. I'm going to run a fucking ad and then I'm going to go get my Kleenex on. Okay. My bad. So, let me see. Let me look. All right. Tracking time. This is something that always gets me in D&D games. Like, is it day, is it night? Actually, not D&D, every role-playing game. Does it matter? It seems to only really come up when you have like an item that recharges at dawn or something, or when you're like, we only have 30 minutes or 6 hours or something. What does the DMG have to say? A calendar lets you record the passage of time in the campaign. More importantly, it lets you plan ahead for critical events that shake up the world. For simple time tracking, use a calendar for the current year in the real world. Pick a date to indicate the start of a campaign and make notes on the days that adventurers spend on their travels and various activities. The calendar tells you when the seasons change and the lunar cycle. More importantly, you can use your calendar to track important festivals and holidays as well as key events that shape your campaign. This method is a good starting point, but the calendar of your world need not follow a modern calendar. If you want to customize your calendar, then do it. That is, God damn it, I keep on doing that because I have a Mac. That's interesting. That's useful. Use an actual calendar. One thing that one of my players, Sararith, brought to my attention, and this is work that someone else did, but she brought it to my attention, was for languages, actually attributing the D&D languages to real-world languages, and that way you can gain accents that are consistent. So if, I don't know, what am I trying to say? If Dwarvish, for example, is kind of like Scottish English, then you always know if you're speaking Dwarvish, you could do like a Scottish accent, or a Persian accent for, or a Middle Eastern sort of accent for, I don't know, one of the other races. And you're not trying to get racist or do bigotry here. It's just trying to attribute them to certain races and that stuff, or certain languages, and that'd be kind of cool. Okay. The basics. A fantasy world's calendar doesn't have to mirror the modern one. Thanks. Fiscal cycles determine when the seasons fall. Fiscal? Physical cycles. Fiscal cycles determine when the seasons fall, marked by the solstices and equinoxes. Great. Religious observances. We get it. I get it, guy. Whoa, check out that dude. Harptos. Wait, his name's Harptos? That dude is ripped. Damn. Okay. Okay. Look at that blonde hair. He looks like a dude who the model had brown hair and they threw blonde hair on him. Like he's wearing that hair. Civic observances. Guys, we get it. We get it. Oh my god. Ending a campaign. This might be interesting. A campaign's ending should tie up all the threads of its beginning and middle, but you don't have to take a campaign all the way to 20th level for it to be satisfying. Wrap up the campaign whenever your story reaches its natural conclusion. Make sure you allow space and time near the end of your campaign for the characters to finish up any personal goals. Their own stories need to end in a satisfying way, just as your campaign story does. Ideally, some of the characters' individual goals will be fulfilled by the ultimate goal of the final adventure. Great. Give characters with unfinished goals a chance to finish them before the very end. Once the campaign is ended, a new one can begin. If you intend to run a new campaign for the same group of players, using the previous characters' actions as the basis of legends gives them immediate investment in the new setting. Let the new characters experience how the world has changed because of their old characters, how they fucked it up. In the end, though, the new campaign is a new story with new protagonists. They shouldn't have to share the spotlight with the heroes of days gone by. Whatever, I do get it. Like, don't make your, fucking epic level character the hero. Also, Deus Ex Machina, go fuck yourself. Rant. It's rant time. It's really fucking annoying when DMs, GMs, whomever, has the NPC fix every problem. Part of the fun of these games is being able to use your character, whether that's in failure or success. To just have the NPC come along and be like, I fixed it. Go fuck yourself. It's not fun. It's not fun. Now, an interesting thing that my buddy Jeff did several times, but specifically in one game that I was told about, I actually wasn't in it. They had a really high level, 10 levels above them, champion with them. And they were just sort of part of his entourage. He was following them around. And they came across, a very powerful foe. And so, as they were sitting there trying to figure out how to deal with it, they said, why don't we get our NPC to do this? And so they had to convince him. And then Jeff devised some rules, which eventually we all, messed around with and in our various game systems. Now have derivative rules based on it to roll against, that NPC versus the monster. That's awesome. Because what happens is the players outfit the NPC, persuade the NPC, figure it out. They use the NPC as a tool. That's interesting. All right, what is this? The calendar of Harptos. The calendar of the Forgotten Realms uses the calendar of Harptos. Harptos, named after the long-dead wizard who invented it. So, the wizard's name was Harptos. Each year of 365 days is divided into 12 months of 30 days each, which roughly correspond to months in the real world. No joke. Each month is divided into 3 10 days. Okay? Oddly enough, in DreadLore, a week is 10 days. 5 special holidays fall between the months. Shield meat is considered blah, blah, blah. So this is just fantasy names for real world shit. Deep winter, the claw of winter, the claw of the sunsets, storms, the melting. Wonder what that one means. The time of flowers, summertide in the air busy. High sun, the fading. Leaf fall? Wait, leaf fall? The rotting. The feast of the moon. The drawing down. You know, I say go against this stuff. Make up cool shit. Don't just rename it. It's like, right, so who's the human? Oh, those are the humans. Right, so when's summer? Cool. Call it, I don't know. Heat days. Just call it fucking summer. Playstyle. By building a new world or adopting an existing one and creating the key events that launch your campaign, you determined what your campaign is about. Next, you have to decide how you want to run your campaign, like a douchebag. What's the right way to run a campaign? Don't give me some bullshit, D&D. Don't give me some bullshit. That depends on your playstyle and the motivations of your players. Okay. Consider your players' tastes, your strengths as a DM, table rules, and the type of game you want to run. Describe to the players how you envision the game experience and let them give you input. The game is theirs too, though they don't do fucking shit. Lay that groundwork early so your players can make informed choices and help you maintain the type of game you want to run. Consider the following 2 exaggerated examples of playstyle. Also, in the late night rant that Mark and I did last night, we talked a little bit about this, expectations, how a session 0 where you name all this shit out is great. I think you should definitely have a prologue session part of that, as in session 0 should incorporate play, I think. But also, every so often you need to reiterate the expectations, and also you need to realize when your game, the meta part has actually changed. So it's like, yo, we all wanted this at the beginning, but now we're all doing this. I think that's really important. Hack and slash. The adventurers kick in the dungeon door, fight the monsters, and grab their treasure. Euphemism? This style of play is straightforward, fun, exciting, action-oriented. The players spend relatively little time developing personas for their characters, role-playing non-combat situations, or discussing anything other than the immediate dangers of the dungeon. This sounds a lot like what D&D is. In such a game, the adventurers face clearly evil monsters and opponents, and occasionally meet clearly good and helpful NPCs. Don't expect the adventurers to anguish over what to do with prisoners. No. Or to debate whether it's wrong or right to invade and wipe out a bugbear lair. Don't track money or time spent in town. Don't do it. Don't do it. Once they've completed a task, send the adventurers back into action as quickly as possible. Character motivation need be no more developed than a desire to kill. To kill. Monsters and acquire treasure. Here's the thing, guys. I see your example. I would add, go back to the old school, right? OSR style, old school revival. Gold as XP. Boom. Because otherwise, why the fuck do you have gold? Because in 5th edition, you don't buy anything. Everything's rare. And the DM's like, fuck, how much is that? It's rare. It's the most. 5,000. Right? Yeah. Just have XP and treasure be the same thing. And you're going to have a way more fun game if you're doing a hack and slash. Okay. Immersive storytelling. Basically don't use the campaign. Or not the campaign. Basically don't use the mechanics. Waterdeep is threatened by political turmoil. As usual. The adventurers must convince the masked lords, the city's secret rulers, to resolve their differences, but can do so only after both characters and the lords have come to terms with their differing outlooks and agendas. This style of gaming is deep. So deep. Complex and challenging. The focus isn't on combat, but on negotiations, political maneuverings, and character interaction. A whole game session might pass without a single attack roll. Good thing you picked to be a fighter, right? In this style of game, the NPCs are as complex and richly detailed as the adventurers. Although the focus lies on motivation and personality, not game statistics. Expect long digressions from each player about what his or her character does and why. No, never ask why. Never. Don't ask why. We don't care why. Going to a temple to ask a priest for advice can be as important as an encounter as fighting orcs. You should just mix them. And don't expect the adventurers to fight the orcs at all unless they're motivated to do so. A character will sometimes take actions against the player's better judgment because that is what the character would do. Since combat isn't the focus, game rules take a back seat. Game rules. This game's rules take a back seat to character development, so you can just throw this book away. Ability check modifiers and skill proficiencies take precedence over combat bonuses. Feel free to change or ignore rules to fit the player's role-playing needs using the advice presented in part 3 of this book. We need to just flip to part 3, Jesus. Because, I mean, if this actually has rules that convert the combat mechanics written and balanced, it's literally how all of the classes are based. If there's a way to port that over seamlessly into social situations, politics, all of that, hallelujah. And why is it not front and center? Why is that not, this is the game? Again, I'm going into D&D is just not about story, and they spent 30 pages talking about story. Disagree with me if you want. Please do. All right, that's pretty cool. I like this sort of watercolory feel here. Also, why is the dwarf always a Scotsman? Dwarves are just Scotsmen, I guess. He's like, check out this green glowing knife. I'm going to use it. These guys are like, what are you doing? Oh my God. This guy has like, it looks like he has like a force pike. It's fucking Palpatine rolling down like, hello. Pick up that knife. Do it. Okay. Something in between. Listen, we get it. We get it. We get it. Oh my God. I'm going to read it. The style of play in most campaigns fall between these two extremes. There's plenty of action, but the campaign offers an ongoing storyline and interaction between characters as well. Players develop their characters' motivations and relish the chance to prove their skills in combat. That's all they do. To maintain the balance, provide a mixture of role-playing encounters and combat encounters. Even in a dungeon setting, you can present NPCs that aren't meant to be fought, but rather helped out, negotiated with, or just talked to. They gonna die. They gonna die. They're gonna die real quick. Think about your preferred style of play by considering these well-thought-out questions. Are you a fan of realism and gritty consequences? Or are you more focused on making the game seem like an action movie? Do you want the game to maintain a sense of medieval fantasy? Or do you want to explore alternate timelines or modern thinking? Modern thinking. Do you want to maintain a serious tone, or is humor your goal? Even if you are serious, is the action lighthearted or intense? Is bold action key, or do the players need to be thoughtful and cautious? Do you like to plan thoroughly in advance, or do you prefer improvising on the spot? Is the game full of varied D&D elements, or does it center on a theme such as horror? Is the game for all ages, or does it involve mature themes? Are you comfortable with moral ambiguity, such as allowing the characters to explore whether the end justifies the means? Or are you happier with a straightforward, heroic principles, such as justice, sacrifice, and helping the downtrodden? Great. Ask all those questions. Get back to me with your report. Swing. Character names? Oh, Lord. Lots of X's, lots of K's. That's what you need. That's what you need. Every D&D game. Character names. Part of your campaign style has to do with naming characters, okay? It's a good idea to establish some ground rules with your players at the start of a new campaign. In a group consisting of Sithis, Trovak, Anastriana, and Chiron, the human fighter named Bob Number 2, Bob the Second, sticks out. It's way better, though, especially when it's identical to Bob the First, who was killed by kobolds. If everyone takes a lighthearted approach to names, that's fine. If the group would rather take the character and their names a little more seriously, urge Bob's player to come up with a more appropriate name, like Kebab. Player character names should match each other in flavor or concept, and they should also match the flavor of your campaign world. So should non-player characters' names and players you create. Trovak and Chiron don't want to undertake a quest for Lord Cupcake, visit Gumdrop Island, or take down a crazy wizard named Ray. Fuck you. I disagree wholeheartedly. And as evidenced by my continuing or episodic campaigns. The backbone of a campaign is a connected series of adventures, but you can connect them in two different ways. We're going to tell you what you already know. In a continuing campaign, the connected adventures continue, share a sense of a larger purpose or a recurring theme. The adventures might feature returning villains, grand conspiracies, or a single mastermind who's ultimately behind every adventure. Guys, we get it. We get it. Tiers of play. I want to know about the game, not about how to write stories. As characters grow in power, ultimate power, their ability to change the world around them grows with them. It helps to think ahead when creating your campaign to account for this change. As the characters make a greater impact on the world, they face greater danger, whether they want to or not. Powerful factions see them as a threat and plot against them, while friendly ones court their favor in hopes of striking a useful alliance. It's a bitch to be 9th level. The tiers of play represent the ideal milestones for introducing new world-shaking events to the campaign. As the characters resolve one event, a new danger arises. Events need to grow in magnitude and scope, increasing the stakes. Okay, it gets harder. Levels 1 through 4, local heroes. Characters in this tier are still learning the range of class features that define them, including their choice of specialization. But even first level characters are heroes, okay, set apart from the common people by natural characteristics. At the start of their careers, characters use first and second level spells and wield mundane gear. The magic items they find include common consumable items. Their magic can have a big impact on a single encounter. The fate of the town is the whole thing. If they face a young dragon, they're better off avoiding the fight. Levels 5 through 10. Heroes of the realm. So they're dealing with regions. Levels 11 through 16. Masters of the realm. True paragons in the world, set apart from the masses. At this tier, adventurers are far more versatile, and they can usually find the right tool for a given challenge. Okay? Their spells can change the world big time. The fate of a nation or even the world depends on momentous quests that such characters undertake. Levels 17 through 20, Masters of the World. They are superheroes, stuff of legend, far-reaching consequences that determines the fate of millions on the material planes. Characters traverse otherworldly realms and explore demiplanes, You know, you do that well before level 17 to 20. Okay. I thought that was going to be a lot more interesting. It won't. It wasn't. Oh, God. All these different kinds of fantasy. This is kind of interesting, the starting equipment and such. Starting equipment. Character level. It's those tiers. Basically, you start with starting equipment. On a low magic campaign, 500 gold plus 1d10 times 25 gold. Okay, so around 5 to 700 gold. Standard campaign, the same thing. High magic campaign, same thing plus 1 common magic item. If you're higher level, then you're getting a lot more gold. So like 5 to 7,000, which is really not a lot of gold. A common magic item, 2 commons or 3 commons, maybe a rare. And then at the top tier, you're getting anywhere from around 20,000 gold, which again is way too low. 2 common magic items, and a rare, 3 common, 2 rare, 1 very rare. That's at the game start. I think this table is flawed. Whoa, she looks hot and she's not. Boom, boom, boom. All right. I'm kind of interested in this heroic fantasy sword and sorcery blah de blah. However, I'm going to run an ad real quick and then we'll finish these 2 pages and I'll be done for the day. So I'll be back in 1 minute. Meanwhile, I'm going to eat this. I got 40 seconds to eat my cornbread. It's kind of dry. I can't. I'm like cotton mouth. One minute goes by so fast. Oh yeah, we're back. I thought I could eat my cornbread so quick. I was wrong. Dead wrong. Okay. Does this happen? Oh, it is the 3rd. Huh. Okay. This is rough. Hard to do. Okay. Shit, I just spit everywhere. Don't worry about it. Flavors of fantasy. D&D is a fantasy game, but that broad category encompasses a lot of variety. Many different flavors of fantasy exist in fiction and film. Do you want a horrific campaign inspired by the works of H.P. Lovecraft or Clark Ashton Smith? Or do you envision a world of muscled barbarians and nimble thieves along the lines of the classic sword and sorcery books by Robert E. Howard and Fritz Leiber? Your choice can have an impact on the flavor of your campaign. Wonder why they didn't just say Conan. Did Robert Howard write Conan? Who wrote Conan? Yeah, Robert Howard wrote Conan. I wonder if they couldn't say it. Anyway. Heroic fantasy. Heroic fantasy is the baseline assumed by D&D rules. The player's handbook describes this baseline: a multitude of humanoid races coexist with humans in fantastic worlds. Adventurers bring magical powers to bear against the monstrous threats they face. These characters typically come from ordinary backgrounds, but something impels them into an adventuring life, or compels them. The adventurers are the heroes, quote unquote, of the campaign, but they might not be truly heroic, instead pursuing this life for selfish reasons. Technology and society are based on medieval norms, though the culture isn't necessarily European. Campaigns often revolve around delving into ancient dungeons in search of treasure or in an effort to destroy monsters or villains. This genre is also common in fantasy fiction. Swords and sorcery, way better, in my opinion. A grim, hulking fighter disembowels the high priest of the serpent god on his own altar. Whoa. A laughing rogue spends ill-gotten gains on cheap wine in filthy taverns. Hardy adventurers venture into the unexplored jungle in the search of the fabled city of golden masks. A sword and sorcery campaign emulates some of the classic works of fiction, a tradition that goes back to the roots of the game. Here you'll find a dark, gritty world of evil sorcerers and decadent cities, where the protagonists are motivated more by greed and self-interest than by altruistic virtue. Fighter, rogue, and barbarian characters tend to be far more common than wizards, clerics, and paladins. In such a pulp fantasy setting, those who wield magic often symbolize decadence and corruption of civilization. And wizards are the classic villains of these settings. Magic items are therefore rare and often dangerous. Epic fantasy. A devout paladin in gleaming plate armor braces her lance as she charges a dragon. She gets eaten. Bidding farewell to his dear love, a noble wizard sets forth on a quest to close the gate to the 9 hells that is opened in the remote wilderness. A close-knit band of loyal friends strives to overcome the forces of a tyrannical overlord. An epic fantasy campaign emphasizes the conflict between good and evil as a prominent element of the game, with the adventurers more or less squarely on the side of good. These characters are heroic in the best sense, driven by a higher purpose than selfish gain or ambition. And facing incredible dangers without blinking, characters might struggle with moral quandaries, fighting the evil tendencies within themselves as well as the evil that threatens the world. And the stories of these campaigns often include an element of romance, tragic affairs between star-crossed lovers, passion that transcends even death, and chaste adoration between devout knights and the monarchs and nobles they serve. So like Dragonlance. Mythic. It's mythic. It's fantasies mythic. It's fantasies. It's mythic, right? While an angry god tries time and again to destroy him, a clever rogue makes the long journey home from war. Why don't they just say Odysseus? Braving the terrifying guardians of the underworld, a noble warrior ventures into the darkness to retrieve the soul of her lost love. Calling on their divine parentage, a group of demigods undertake 12 labors to win the gods' blessings for other mortals. Okay. A mythic fantasy campaign draws on the themes and stories of ancient myth and legend, from Gilgamesh to Cuchulainn. Adventurers attempt mighty feats of legend, aided or hindered by the gods. All right, we get it. This fantasy's dark. Vampires brood on the battlements of their accursed castles. Necromancers toil in dark dungeons to create horrid servants made of dead flesh. Devils corrupt the innocent, and werewolves prowl the night. All of these elements evoke horrific aspects of the fantasy genre. Truth. Intrigue, swashbuckling, war. Yeah, okay. Ooh, it's got a joke here. Crossing the streams. I read you. The renowned paladin Merland, from the world of Earth, as featured in Greyhawk novels and game products. I'm pretty sure that's just Earth. Dresses in the traditional garb of Earth's Old West and wears a pair of six-shooters strapped to his waist. This reminds me kind of a whole lot of a certain gunslinger. The mace of St. Cuthbert, a holy weapon belonging to Greyhawk's god of justice. So you mix them up. Okay. More art. That is cool. Oh yeah, we saw this before. This looks like they took that scene out of Tolkien, and that's the Nazgul. Creating a multiverse. All right. This is where I'm going to end it, y'all. I hope this was enjoyable. I know I skipped over some, but, you know, whatever. If you want to read it, it's online.anyflip.com. You can also just search 5th edition DMG online and find this, and you've got access to the book. It's pretty cool. So if you want to get down and dirty and like get into that shit, I'm not interested. I'm going to do chapter 2 the next time, and I would like to actually get through this DMG. I may end up popping over particularly boring parts to get to like the nuts and bolts, the stuff that's like actually interesting and useful in the book. I will note this drop cap they've got going on here is really cool. When it says when, that's excellent. I didn't notice that before. So props on the design. I didn't do this last stream, and I should have. It's a shout out to the Patreon people, to Nigel Miller, Daniel Holker, Donald Bain, and Aaron Lynch. They are those who lead. That's the third tier. Second tier gets a shout out as well. It's Minor Stokes and me Handlebars. Thank you all for supporting the channel and everything. If you want to join that, then there's a Patreon link and all that good stuff. And any announcements? I am, speaking of the book, the DreadLore book, I'm very close to finishing it. I just finished up all the artwork. I'm in the process of going through using InDesign, using the program that I'm doing this with, to basically integrate the artwork into the book, just make it look good. Like if you look at this book here, how it's all set in and kind of bleeds into this next page here. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. And then it's making an index and shoring up the little bits and pieces to send off to the printers. So hopefully by the end of this month, that's my goal right now. And then by December to actually have a physical book that I can read through and proofread, and finally get this Kickstarter done, as in fulfilled. So if you're interested in getting one of the DreadLore core books, or anything that goes with it, which is the pre-generating characters, the primer adventure module, if you're interested in a t-shirt, that kind of stuff, do let me know, because I can put you on the wait list. There's no money involved right now, because obviously I'm going to get everything done before I do the ordering. And then you can also order it online once I actually get it up on the publisher's site. That'll probably be early next year, like January-ish. But yeah, if you're interested in being on the waiting list and such, let me know. I believe the core book will cost around $60, and plus shipping and handling. And it is a hardback book. It's going to be pretty cool. Okay, well, that is it for me. I did do a little bit of Sirenscape at the beginning of this stream. I don't know if you could hear it. That's something I'll have to integrate at some point. Let me turn that back on. Doesn't work. There we go. You can either hear it or you can't. And with thanks to Sirenscape and all them, I'll be doing this at another time. Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard is going to be the Richmond Fay game, D&D, 5th edition. And on Wednesdays, I'm going to be doing Late Night Rant with a guest or just by myself. Usually lasts 1 or 2 hours. Starts around 10 or 11 p.m. Lots of game talk, lots of digging into game systems and ways of GMing, way of playing, and exploring all of that. telling stories and such. And then there's this reading the D&D 5th edition, which I'll move on to other stuff once it's finished. All right. I don't have a catchphrase, so we'll go with go fuck yourself. Bye.